Then one fateful day, he met Ngozi. She was kind, intelligent, and like most people, didn't have time to read between the lines of Chijioke's exaggerated tales. She had a straightforward job, a modest lifestyle, and a dream of a life full of adventures and unrealistic experiences. If we understand what it means to be real, then maybe we'll be free from this pressure. Listen, I have a story for you. Once upon a time in the busy city of Lagos, there lived a man named Chijioke. He wasn't rich, not by a long shot, but you wouldn't have known that by the way he carried himself. Every time he entered a room, he spoke with so much confidence and flair, as though he were the weirdest man in the city. He wore fine clothes, at least they looked fine. He would frequent expensive looking restaurants, even if he ordered just a coffee, and always sat with a posture that suggested that he could afford anything on the menu. Chijioke's charm was in his ability to make others believe in the grandeur of his life, even though the reality was quite different. Chijioke worked as a middle-tier manager in a small tech company. His salary could cover rent, food, and the occasional night out, but certainly not the luxury he pretended to live in. Yet every conversation he had seemed to revolve around his supposed wealth. He would boast about his business ventures and side projects, which in truth were just ideas he dreamed about at night. But the more he spoke, the more people believed him. They didn't question it. Why would they? Chijioke's charm was magnetic. He had mastered the art of subtlety, making his life sound more glamorous than it really was. Then one fateful day, he met Ngozi. She was kind, intelligent, and like most people, didn't have time to read between the lines of Chijioke's exaggerated tales. She had a straightforward job, a modest lifestyle, and a dream of a life full of adventures and unrealistic experiences. Chijioke, sensing an opportunity, was immediately drawn to her, not just because she was beautiful, but because she seemed different from the other women he had known. But Chijioke, in his desperation to win her over, was willing to promise the moon. "I can give you the best Christmas of your life, Ngozi," he told her one evening, his voice full of sincerity. "A vacation to somewhere warm, expensive dinners, gifts that no one could ever top." Ngozi laughed, impressed by his boldness. "Really? That sounds amazing," she replied, but her tone was playful, not really convinced. "Trust me," Chijioke said, his eyes sparkling. "I have everything planned. You will see. It will be an unforgettable experience." Chijioke went to great lengths to keep to his promises and maintain his image. He invited Ngozi to high-end restaurants, rented a sleek car for their dates, and even mentioned booking a luxurious vacation. But there was a catch. He had promised all of this without the means to make it a reality. In the week leading to Christmas, Chijioke began to feel the pressure mounting. His bank account was modest at best, and although he had been saving for months, he wasn't quite sure how much he had set aside. Each paycheck, he added a little more, telling himself it would be enough to cover the extravagant plans he had made. But deep inside, a small voice questioned whether he had saved enough. With Christmas fast approaching, Chijioke's nerves grew. He promised Ngozi a gift that would blow her away. Something special, something meaningful. But as he cracked open his savings jar in preparation, the reality hit him hard. He had spent months saving, convinced he would have enough to cover everything. But as he counted the money, his heart sank. It wasn't much. It barely covered the cost of a decent dinner, let alone a lavish vacation or the extravagant gifts he had promised. Chijioke's mind raced. How could he face Ngozi now? How could he admit that the promises he had made were just that? Empty words. He knew that if he confessed the truth, he would lose her. He couldn't bear the thought of her seeing him for what he truly was, a man who had lied to win her affection. As Christmas approached, Chijioke was in a panic. He walked through the city streets thinking desperately of a solution, but no matter how he tried, the truth was undeniable. His savings, his carefully crafted image, it was all a house of cards ready to fall. Then an idea came. Chijioke remembered an investment program that promised quick return of investment. He had initially refused to pay attention, but at the moment, he saw it as a fast way to double his savings and save his face. He took consolation in people's testimonies on how real the opportunity was. "It has been paying people. It will surely pay me," Chijioke said to himself as he invested more than half of his savings in it. And just like they were waiting for Chijioke to invest, the site stopped operation and complained of technical temporary issues that will be resolved in the week. Chijioke found himself frustrated and entangled in a web of lies and mounting pressures. The initial excitement of investing his savings into the Ponzi scheme had quickly turned to frustration and panic. The money that was supposed to bring him peace of mind and the ability to spoil his girlfriend now seemed to slip further and further from his grasp. The week-long wait for his promised return had turned into a cruel game of waiting with no payoff. The site was down, and his attempts to withdraw funds were met with endless error messages. His frustration grew. What would he tell his girlfriend? How could he face his friends when they asked about the luxurious Christmas gifts they had all been expecting from him? For a man who had prided himself on appearing successful, now everything seemed to be falling apart. His pride, his carefully constructed name, was crumbling in front of him. Desperate for a solution, he reached out to his friend that introduced the investment opportunity to him. He asked for answers. "What's happening?" he asked. His friend too was in the same boat. "It's happening to everyone," his friend told him with a sigh. "I don't know what to do either." That was when the full weight of his situation hit him. Not only had he lost his savings, but now there was the looming threat of disappointing his girlfriend, the very person he wanted to impress. She had already sent him a list of Christmas gifts, each item more extravagant than the last, and he had promised her the world. Chijioke sat on his sofa, his head in his hands. The pressure was unbearable. His phone buzzed with notifications from his siblings, all asking for financial help to buy Christmas presents. He had told them months ago that he wouldn't be able to make it home for Christmas, but now it seemed like it is the only option. Maybe it was time to go back to his family, the one group of people who didn't expect anything from him. They knew him for who he truly was. At least, there he could escape the looming disaster for a few days and regroup. In a haze of desperation, he sold his television and used the money to buy a ticket back to his hometown. It wasn't much, but it was enough for the bus ride. He planned to stay with his family until the chaos settled, avoid any questions about the Christmas gifts, and hopefully by January, things will return to normal. Then he would think of some elaborate story to tell his girlfriend and friends when he returned, explaining the delay in gifts and the sudden absence. As he packed his bag, his phone buzzed again, this time a voice note from his girlfriend. He hesitated before listening, dreading what he might hear. She was excitedly listing the things she wanted for Christmas: a designer handbag, a high-end smartphone, a weekend getaway to a luxury resort. His heart sank further as he realized how far apart their expectations were. He couldn't afford any of it, not anymore. By the time Chijioke boarded the bus, he felt like a man running from his own lies, escaping the world he had carefully built. He was on his way back home, where the pressure of living up to false promises would disappear. At least in his village, he wouldn't be expected to show up. There his real self could breathe again. Meanwhile, his girlfriend, having not received any response to her voice notes or her earlier messages, made her own decision. Deciding she could no longer wait around, she packed her things and traveled to her own hometown. Her family had always been her refuge, a place where she could relax and escape the high expectations of her social circle. To her surprise, she ended up at the market in her village on Christmas Eve, picking out a chicken for Christmas dinner. As she wandered through the store, she bumped into someone she instantly recognized. It was him, her boyfriend, the man who had promised her the world just a week ago. He was standing there looking a little sheepish, trying to avoid eye contact. They both stared at each other for a moment, stunned. It was as if the universe had conspired to bring them face to face at this very moment, this very place where neither of them had intended to be. After a few awkward moments, they burst into laughter, the tension of the last week melting away. They quickly realized that they were from the same village, a fact neither of them had known before. Both had been living their lives under a veil of pretense, trying to maintain an image that wasn't truly them. Now, here they were, in the midst of the Christmas market, sharing a moment of honest, unguarded connection. They sat down on a bench and shared their stories. He confessed to her about the Ponzi scheme, the failed investment, and the lies he had told to keep up appearances. She in turn admitted that she had been caught up in her own version of the perfect life, trying to live up to unrealistic standards. They both laughed at how ridiculous it all was. For the first time in a long while, they felt free, no pressure. They spent the next few days together, away from the prying eyes of their friends and the weight of their former expectations. Christmas was no longer about expensive gifts or appearances. It was about being together, being real with each other. They enjoyed the simplicity of family tradition, shared stories around the dinner table, and found joy in the little things. A warm fire, a shared meal, and the quiet place of no longer pretending. No one was under pressure to impress anyone. No one was pretending to be something they weren't. For the first time, they were just two people enjoying each other's company. The Christmas season ended on a high note for both of them. No grand gestures, no lavish presents, just honesty and real connection. As the new year began, they promised each other that they would never again allow their pride or insecurities to lead them into pretending to be something they were not. They had learned that the best gift they could give each other was simply being true to themselves. Happy Christmas and a prosperous new year indeed. If you enjoyed this story, please do well to like, comment and subscribe. Don't forget to leave your notification button on for more stories like this. My name is Thank God and this is SY Times.